AI coding or vibe coding tools like Lovable, Replit, Bolt, or V0 are very popular nowadays. In fact, some of them are even breaking historical growth rate records. And without doubt, AI app generation has cracked open the Pandora's box, promising that anyone, without exception, can build apps. But can they really? And if we're talking prototypes, holiday projects, or any productivity applications for personal use, these tools are magical. But once we step into building apps for real users, both internal or external, these apps start to fall short. And while it takes lots of different things to get to a production ready state, today I want to focus on one specific issue and how this issue can be solved by marrying AI app generation technology with another technology that's been sitting quietly in AI's shadow for quite a while now. Now, this is what I call crossing the chasm. Imagine you've just built your dream app with one of the AI app builders like Lovable, Bolt, or Replit. You let your imagination run wild. You play with different ideas, but even with good prompting, you end up with a draft that's maybe 70 to 80% there. Now, if this is a hobby project, that's probably enough. But if you're building real software, something that must solve real user problems, has a great user experience, and is reliable, you must get to 100%. But it's not as easy as it might look at the first glance. One of the biggest obstacles is making changes, or more specifically, the lack of control to make precise changes. To unpack this, let's look at Cursor, one of the most popular AI coding editors out there. To make changes to your app, you've got two options basically. You can chat with AI, which is self-explanatory, but you can also use inline code editing, which allows you to make surgical, precise changes when and where you need it. Now, compare that to AI app builders like Lovable, Bolt, or Replit. Here, you're basically stuck with chat. You can see the code, but you can't interact with it directly, which entails a fundamental issue. For every change you want to make, you must be prompting. And while chat is fantastic for brainstorming, bringing your ideas to life, it's more like art, where you throw things at a canvas and see what sticks. So what happens next? You often, not always, but often enough, get stuck in a loop. You keep prompting, hoping to tweak one thing, but you end up messing up something else. You burn through credits, but more importantly, you lose control. Your input doesn't always give you a predictable output. Now, if we look closely at the app we generated with AI, it's essentially a collection of UI components, like building blocks, such as buttons, cards, and so on and so forth. Now, if we had a visual editor where you could directly interact with those blocks, access their properties, and just drag, drop, point, and click, you're back in control. No misinterpretation by AI, no guessing. What you see is what you do, is what you get. You can still use chat as this creative, exploratory space where you draft ideas quickly. But combining it with a no-code visual editor for precise adjustments gives you the best of two worlds: creativity and control, speed and precision. Now, let's look at the real-life example. Okay, now that I'm inside of Jet Admin, I can see a bunch of existing projects, but for this demo, let's start from scratch. And the prompt I prepared is very simple. I want to build a modern front-end inventory portal for restaurants and suppliers. And suppliers should be able to log in, view their inventory, edit items, delete items, and mark certain items as out of stock. I'll copy that prompt, paste it, click continue, and we'll have to wait a little bit. Now, Jet Admin gives me an intermediate step where I can specify what pages I want generated and transforms my prompt into user stories, so I can check that everything matches, and that's a pretty cool feature. Okay, everything looks good. So let's click generate. Okay, great. Here's what Jet AI created. And it's not bad. Let's take a deeper look. Okay, I can add a new item. I can export a CSV. I can't see the buttons here, but let's drill down into individual items. Okay, here are all the actions. And this is actually a great illustration of this problem I brought up earlier. You get close, but not quite in terms of where you want your application to be. And sure, now I could keep chatting with AI to adjust things, but that only would get me so far. So let's see what the alternative is. And as you can see, I have access to individual components directly in JetAdmin. In this case, it's a list of items, and I can interface with all the parameters and make changes right away. Don't want to show categories, so I just hide it. And I want to display last updated date instead. Okay, I just click enable it, and here it is. I can even control formatting, like how the date is displayed. And this is, by the way, is exactly the type of adjustment that can get you in trouble with AI chatting. Now, with JAD filtering, sorting, and pagination are all built in and work pretty much out of the box. Right now, it's using JAD internal test data, but I can swap it out with my real data and even consolidate data from multiple sources. Now, maybe I don't like how the export to CSV option looks. And what I can do is I just select the component, open its properties, and tweak the design. I can pin it and adjust styles. And if I want something custom, I can drop in a brand new button and design it pixel perfect, specifying the snapping mechanics, interactions for hover and click, and so on and so forth. All right, now let's get back to those buttons that I wasn't happy with. And the fix here is simple. I just drag the button and I drop it wherever I want. And the snapping and alignment automatically adjusts, so you don't need to configure that. And if I need to fine tune the position, I can do that later too. Now, for the time being, what I also want to show is that I can add new components from the built-in UI library. For example, say I want to add a timeline. And I just drag it onto the canvas, drop it in place, and then set up data and the business logic I want. And most of these adjustments I can make directly with my mouse right on the screen. Now, here's the coolest part, and the perfect place to wrap up this walkthrough. With JAD I'm not limited to just tweaking design and little animations. I can actually define and change the business logic of the application. So take this out of stock button as an example. Right now, it just changes value. That's it. But from a proper UX perspective, it probably should also automatically take the user back to the previous page once they've updated their stock information. So normally you'd have to explain that in a chat and hope the AI gets it correctly. But here I can just add a new action, navigate to previous page. Done. And I can keep building on top of this in the same manner with no code point and click interface. For example, I can add more actions or build a complex workflow. And the builder here works a lot like what you'd see in tools like Zapier or Make, pretty intuitive. I can set up full-blown business logic, connect different resources, call APIs, incorporate AI agents, and trigger actions across the app, and glue this all together using business logic. Now, that's what I think is the power of combining AI generation with a no-code visual builder mechanics. And it takes you from these initial 60, 70, 80% draft to a fully polished production-ready application with complete control. So if you'd like to try it out, check the link in the description. It's free and you can explore it. And let me know in the comments what you think about it. See you.